Welcome to Movement, Rhythm, and Conversation, the show where we delve into the profound impact of religion, spark provoking conversation, explore the world through an open-minded perspective. I'm your host, Tafari, here to bring you engaging discussions, eye-opening stories, and conversation that pulls no punches. Whether it's faith, culture, creativity, or real-life experience, we keep it raw, honest, and unfiltered.
A common belief within the African diaspora concerning the relationship between Christianity and Africa is that Christianity came to be known amongst African people via oppression and colonialism. Christianity is one of the most popular religions amongst African and African-descended people around the world. So the question is, how did African people come to know and embrace the message of Christianity? For those who may not know, Christianity started in the Levant region, which is right in between Europe and Africa. When Europeans embraced Christianity, they began to popularize it, especially with their paintings of biblical figures during the Renaissance period. These biblical figures were assigned with European features, not only so the people can relate to them, but it also evolved to project an idea that the European phenotype is close to divinity. Christian art by Europeans became a powerful tool for European supremacy, especially during the colonial period. And as 21st century intellectuals in the Black community revisited this past, it tended to paint the overall history and development of Christianity in an impressive light, especially when it comes to its relationship with Africa. But let's actually follow the religious history of Christianity and find out how African people were introduced to it. The very first encounter with the continent and Jesus is actually found in the Bible in the book of Matthew, chapter 2, verses 14 through 15. So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." So as we can see, according to the Christian Bible itself, Jesus fled to Egypt, fleeing potential persecution from King Herod. The second encounter with Jesus and the continent was when Jesus was about to get crucified, and a man from North Africa named Simon of Cyrene came to help him bear the weight of the cross. Interestingly enough, according to the Bible, one of Jesus' first experiences on earth was in Africa, and one of his last encounters was also with a man from Africa. During this time, there were many people from Egypt and other regions in North Africa that came to the Levant as merchants. So North Africans were literally there to witness the life of Jesus. Even though there were people from North Africa present in the Levant during the time of Jesus, what was the first official sign of a converted Christian in Africa? Well, the Christian Bible also makes mention of this. In the book of Acts, chapter 8, verses 26 and 27, it states, "Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, 'Go south to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza.' So he started out, and on his way he met an Ethiopian eunuch, an important official in charge of all the treasury of the Kandaki. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship. So the first official sign of a Christian in Africa was a Cushite official from ancient Nubia. The message of Christianity apparently penetrated all the way down to Cush, and a Cushite man accepted Christianity. The Christian Bible tells us that the Cushite was actually on his way to Jerusalem to worship. The conversion of this Cushite signifies the long and extensive history of Christian Africans in Nubia. As we can confirm historically, ancient Nubia harbored 3 Christian kingdoms: the kingdom of Nobatia, Makuria, and Alodia. Christianity in the kingdom of Nobatia began to take a stronghold around the 5th century. The first officially recognized Christian king of Nobatia was King Silko. By the end of the 6th century, Makuria had converted to Christianity. What's so significant about Makuria is that this Christian nation literally stopped the Arabs from conquering further south into Eastern Africa and spreading Islam through conquest for quite some time. According to historian al-Baladhuri, at the Battle of Dungalo, the Muslims found that the Nubians fought strongly and met them with showers of arrows. The majority of Arab forces returned with wounded and blinded eyes. It was thus that the Nubians were called the pupil smiters. One day, they came out against us and formed a line. We wanted to use swords, but we were not able to, and they shot at us and put out eyes to the number of 150. The kings of Makuria apparently took their religion very serious, as they even took on Christian names such as King Abraham, King Solomon, and King David. In fact, there's a tombstone from the Makurian king, King David. As we can see, the inscriptions are clearly Nubian script with obvious crosses on the bottom, advancing Christian imagery and symbolism. And our last kingdom is Alodia. The kingdom of Alodia was officially converted to Christianity in the 6th century. Alodia is described as being larger, wealthier, and even more powerful than Makuria, with the country covering a large region. Now, this is where we get to Inner Africa. The first sign of Christianity in Inner Africa was actually in Ethiopia during the reign of the Aksumite Empire. Although Christianity existed long before the rule of King Ezana of the Aksumite Empire, the religion took a strong foothold when it was declared a state religion in 330 AD. So how did Christianity come to Ethiopia? Funny story, actually. After being shipwrecked and captured at an early age, Frumentius, a man from Lebanon, was carried to Aksum, where he was treated well. It was Frumentius who converted King Ezana to Christianity, and the religion became official. So far, we've documented the presence of Christianity in North Africa and its flow down into Eastern Africa, from Egypt all the way to Ethiopia. But what about Western Africa? How did Christianity come to that part of the continent? Well, there's a general idea that Christianity first came to Africa via colonialism, and that simply isn't true, as we proved earlier. But when it comes to Western Africa, we assume this as well. However, Christianity actually entered Western Africa via trade with the Portuguese around the 15th century. To begin with, Africans in the West had a relatively positive trading relationship with the Portuguese. And when you're trading things, you're not only trading items, but you're also trading ideas. And it was in this context that the Kongo Empire embraced Christianity in the 15th century. The unique thing about Kongo was that there was a huge movement led by Kempavita to understand Christianity strictly from an African perspective, because they began to realize the manipulation of the Portuguese. The Kongo Empire has a very long and extensive history with Christianity that is very well documented. The Bakongo people were very much a part of the Christian world. So given this historical perspective when it comes to Africa, Christianity flowed into the continent very naturally as it did in other parts of the world. I mean, it only makes sense that Christianity would flow into Africa naturally, as the birthplace of Christianity is literally right outside of Egypt.
That clip came from the podcast channel Home Team History. Now, before you start feeling all warm and fuzzy about Christianity beginning in Africa, let's slow down and consider a few things. First, nobody's arguing that Christianity didn't touch Africa early. The real issue is how it was repackaged and weaponized, sold back to Africans and African Americans through colonization and slavery as a tool of control. Second, the fact that the religion has roots in Africa proves nothing about the existence of God. It only proves that ancient people struggling to explain life and death without science, creating a God to fill in the gaps of their understanding. And let's not forget, the Greek tampered with the original Egyptian spiritual texts, reshaping them to fit their own needs for power and control. Later, Europeans took those same scripture, twisted the translation, and molded the Bible into a weapon of domination. Religion dressed up as salvation, but built on manipulation. So the real question isn't where Christianity started. The real question is who corrupted it and why?
Africa, a continent shrouded in misconceptions, often portrayed through a lens of poverty and strife. Yet beneath this surface narrative lies a history rich in innovation, power, and intellectual prowess. Long before the shackles of colonialism, Africa was home to empires that rivaled the greatest civilizations of their time. From the bustling cities of ancient Egypt to the sprawling kingdoms of Kush and Aksum, Africa's pre-colonial history is a testament to human ingenuity. These empires were not mere footnotes in history. They were centers of trade, scholarship, and artistry. The gold of Ghana fueled economies across the Mediterranean, while the ivory and spices of the East African coast found their way to distant lands. These kingdoms thrived on complex systems of governance, sophisticated trade networks, and a deep reverence for knowledge. They were the architects of architectural marvels, intricate social structures, and a vibrant cultural tapestry that stretched across the continent. The echoes of these empires resonate even today. The ruins of Great Zimbabwe stand as a testament to the architectural ingenuity of the Shona people, while the oral traditions passed down through generations preserve the stories of their ancestors. These stories speak of valiant warriors, wise rulers, and a deep connection to the land. They offer a glimpse into a world that existed long before the arrival of European colonizers. A world where Africa stood as an equal player on the global stage. The empires of pre-colonial Africa were not utopias. They had their share of conflicts, power struggles, and social hierarchies. Yet their stories are essential reminders of Africa's inherent strength, resilience, and capacity for greatness. They challenge the dominant narratives that often overshadow Africa's rich past, reminding us that the continent's history is not solely defined by colonialism. The art and music of these ancient civilizations continue to inspire and influence modern culture. Festivals and dances that have been passed down through generations celebrate the vibrant heritage of these empires. The universities of Timbuktu and other centers of learning were beacons of knowledge, attracting scholars from across the world. Women played crucial roles in these societies, from queens who ruled with wisdom to artisans who crafted with skill. Education was highly valued, with children learning the ways of their ancestors through stories, songs, and hands-on experience. African explorers charted unknown territories, contributing to the global understanding of geography and trade. The warriors of these empires defended their lands with bravery and strategic prowess, leaving behind tales of heroism. Traditional medicine and healing practices were advanced, with knowledge of herbs and treatments that are still used today. The craftsmanship of African artisans produced works of art that were both functional and beautiful, reflecting the culture's aesthetic values. Trade routes crisscrossed the continent, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. Storytellers played a vital role in preserving history, passing down the wisdom and experiences of their people through generations. Today, the legacy of these empires can be seen in the resilience and creativity of modern African societies, which continue to build on their rich heritage. The youth of Africa are the torchbearers of this legacy, poised to lead the continent into a future of renewed glory and prosperity. United in their diversity, the people of Africa are reclaiming their narrative, celebrating their past, and forging a path towards a brighter future.
That was a clip from the podcast channel, Woke Nation TV. Imagine an Africa untouched by European colonization. No ships are landing to divide its land with arbitrary borders. No priest offering salvation in exchange for submission. No missionary teaching the children of the continent to kneel before a foreign god while ignoring the gods of their own ancestors. In this alternate history, Africa is not the dark continent portrayed in colonial propaganda. It's the light of human civilization, shining brighter than any European kingdom could match. Africa without colonization. Before colonization, Africa was already a continent of kingdoms, empires, and trade networks as sophisticated as any in the world. Empires like Mali, Songhai, Benin, and Great Zimbabwe were centers of wealth, scholarship, architectural, diplomacy. Timbuktu Library were filled with manuscripts of medicine, astronomy, and law, while Europeans were still clawing its way out of the Middle Age. Without colonization, Africa's borders would have been shaped by shared culture, language, tradition, not by the Berlin Conference of 1884, where European powers carved up the continent like a pie they had no right to eat. Technological advancements would have emerged on African terms. Iron-working civilization in scientific advancements in Egypt, and maritime trade from Swahili coast could have fueled an industrial age rooted in African innovation, not in European theft. African natural wealth, gold, diamond, oil, fertile soil, rare minerals, would have been invested into African society rather than filling European treasures. Education system would have been built to honor Africans, language and philosophies, not to erase them. African spiritual systems with their reverence for nature, ancestors, and communities would have guided governance, economics, and morality. Good morning, my people of the Unchained Mind. Reclaim Your Soul movement. This is Movement, Rhythm, and Conversation. I'm your host, Tafari. Today we step into an Africa that could have been an Africa untouched by colonization. No ships are sailing to slice through her land. No missionaries offering salvation in exchange for obedience. No foreign guards demanding we abandon our own. Let's get into it. The poison of Christianity. Instead, Africa was offered Christianity, a religion that demands Africans abandon their own gods, their own stories, their own connection to the divine. This was not a gift. It was a weapon disguised as salvation. European missionaries brought Bibles to replace African spiritual texts, and doing so, erased centuries of cultural wisdom. Christianity in Africa didn't arrive as a faith for liberation. It came as the soft power of colonization. The priests and the soldiers worked hand in hand. One conquered the soul while the other conquered the land. The Bible was used to convince Africans that suffering was holy, that obedience was godly, and that their reward would come not in life, but in some distant heaven. This thinking disarmed resistance, pacified rebellion, and allowed Europeans to extract resources without constant revolt. Let's ask the question, why Africa doesn't benefit from Africa? Today, Africa remains one of the wealthiest continents in resources, yet one of the poorest in economic independence. Why? Because the system of exploitation created during colonization never ended. They simply changed the faces. Foreign corporations still own the mine. African crops are exported for European and American profit, while local population face hunger. IMF and World Bank loans keep African nations in cycles of debt. And through it all, Christianity remains deeply entrenched, often more value than self-determination. Spiritual energy that could be fueling political unity, economic self-reliance, and cultural restoration is instead invested in waiting for divine intervention. The people are taught to pray for blessings instead of demanding reparations, to tithe to churches instead of investing in their own communities, to forgive their oppressors instead of holding them accountable. Resistance before the fall. The Kingdom of Benin, present-day Nigeria, renowned for its sophisticated governance, unmatched bronze artistry. Benin resists European religion influence for over a century. The Oba rejected missionary control, maintaining the kingdom's spiritual system. Only the British invasion of 1897, a violent act of culture theft, brought Benin under colonial rule, with its treasures scattered in Europe museums. The Kingdom of Kongo before conversion. Congo rulers initially tolerated Christianity for trade benefits, but resisted fully abandoning their own tradition. This duality created tensions until European-backed fractions destabilized the kingdom, making way for colonial domination. The Ashanti Empire, present-day Ghana. The Ashantis fiercely guarded their spiritual symbols, the golden stool, resisting British missionary work and colonial expansion. Their war against Britain were legendary. Only by military conquest in 1900 did the British finally subdue them, never through conversion. Ethiopia, the nation that defied colonization. Ethiopia's victory over Italy at the Battle of Adwa in 1896 made it a beacon of African resistance. While Ethiopia had its own form of Christianity, it was rooted in African identity, untouched by European missionary dominancy. The Kingdom of Dahomey, present-day Benin. Dahomey voodoo religion stood firm despite European trade contact. Missionaries failed repeatedly to convert the people because the kingdom leaders enforced strict spiritual sovereignty. It was only military defeat by the French in 1894 that ended Dahomey independence. Stagnation through faith. Colonization left Africa with more churches than factories, more pastors than scientists, more prayers, meetings than policy reform. Even nations rich in oil and diamonds are plagued with poverty because faith has been weaponized. To make suffering seem noble, poverty seems holy. A continent that once measured wealth in land, cattle, and gold now measures spiritual worth by church attendance. The tragedy is not that Africa believed in God. Faith had always been a part of the African spirit. The tragedy is that Africans were convinced their God must look like their oppressor, speak the oppressor language, and bless the oppressor descendants. Christianity became the chain that replaced the colonial whip, lighter on the skin, but heavier on the mind. The Africa that could still rise. Without colonization and the forced offering of Christianity, Africa might have been a superpower of United Kingdoms, advanced industries, and cultural pride. Even now, that future is not completely lost. It requires a rejection of mental colonization, a revival of indigenous knowledge, and a shift from dependency on foreign faith to trust in Africa's capacities. Africa could still control her resources, teach her children her own history, and craft a destiny rooted in self-sufficiency. But first, she must see that the gift of Christianity was never meant to save her. It was meant to keep her kneeling. The Africa that could have been is still possible, but only if we reject mental colonization, only if we revive the wisdom of our ancestors, only if we stop waiting for rescue and start building our own salvation. Africa can still rise, but she must first stand up from her knees. This is Movement, Rhythm, and Conversation. I'm your host, Tafari, reminding you, unchain your mind, reclaim your soul. And never forget, the future of Africa is still in Africa's hands.